Welcome to the latest Talking Dirty with BICSc even. My name's Neil. Joining me today is Kelsey, and Diane is here to look after your questions in the chat and deal with anything that crops up as we go through the session. If you haven't joined us before, these sessions are aimed at answering any questions that you have around what BICSc does and doesn't do, anything technical that we can help you on. And every time we get hundreds of questions. We've got in excess of 300 people registered for today's webinar, which means there's up to 300 questions in there. I can't guarantee we're going to get through all of them. What we are going to do to start off with is deal with some of the housekeeping ones around certificates and bits and pieces like that. But before I carry on, just to let you know, your cameras are all turned off and you are all muted. If you have any questions, please drop it into the Q&A or the chat. The reason we do this is it means the webinars run a lot smoother. So getting on to some of the first questions, we get things like I haven't received my certificate, I haven't received my card. It depends where you've been trained. If you're in the UK and you haven't received your card from us, please contact BICSc on their info@bicsc.org.uk address, and we will sort that out for you. If you're international and you've trained online, if you're UK and you've trained online and it's through the BICSc online portal, please also do the same. However, if you have been trained through either Al Attiyad Pioneers in Saudi Arabia or SafeFast in Dubai, please contact them directly because they will be the ones that receive your cards and certificates and will be distributing them. We're going to start the session off. There's lots of questions. How do I get BICSc training? Where is BICSc training available? That kind of question. So so you don't have to listen to my voice too much, I'm going to hand over to Kelsey. Kelsey, do you want to start that off and I'll join in if necessary?
So the question, how do we get BICSc training?
Yeah.
The best question. First of all, it obviously is really important in where you are, but we'll go through the process. So you've contacted BICSc. If you are out in the Middle East, which we know that a lot of our potential customers are, we have our official exclusive training partner out there, which is SafeFast. Or Etihad Pioneers, who we will help direct you to. They have a great training resource out there and are the exclusive trainer partner of BICSc, so are officially partners. And you can get training, you can start training on the practical side, on the CPSS side of BICSc out there with them. There are loads of different options outside of that as well, and especially if you are outside of their remit. So if we go down the practical route, the CPSS route, which we are known and well loved for, so that's the normal things that you're used to hearing, like license to practice, skills, accredited trainer, assessor. You can do all of that through BICSc, through both a practical option in terms of on-site face-to-face and a practical option that we deliver digitally through online training, which can be done through our virtual training suite. We also then, additionally to that, which many of you may not know, have our Clean Logic courses. The Clean Logic courses are theory-based courses that can help supervise and manage the contracts that you have, and are also available to cleaning operatives as well that want to grow their knowledge and might even just be accessible to people that work within the clean operations. So things like theory of cleaning inspections, costing and calculating, principles of health and safety, they're all available as virtual courses only and are accessible through our virtual training suite, which is on the BICSc website.
Okay, Di will share the link to that in the chat as well as the link to our international page, which gives you the contact details for SafeFast out in the Middle East. The one thing Kelsey covered virtually everything. The one thing she missed is we can train you on site at Northampton as well if you prefer to come to us. So on your site, Northampton online, all options are available to you. In terms of training around that, we've had a number of questions around where can I get supervisor training. BICSc do offer a 250 lesson, very comprehensive supervisors training course. It's People get a year to do that. It is available on the virtual training suite. It's delivered virtually, but does include assessments, and it does include an assignment at the end as well. It covers, and I'm not going to be able to reel all 10 off the top of my head. It covers soft services like customer service, some HR elements to it. It covers health and safety. It covers control of cross-contamination. It will train you in LTP and 7 skills. It will take you through how to train. It will look at productivity, work rates and work loading, that kind of thing. It will also take you through the theory of cleaning inspections, and it will take you through auditing as well, I think, to some extent. But it's all there. And if you go to the link that Di will put in our chat as well, for the supervisor certificate, it lists the 10 modules that are included, and within those modules there are multiple lessons. It's all fully explained to you there. Drop us an email. We're happy to chat to you if you want to know more about that. I think that for me covers the basics of and quite a number of how do we get certified, how do we get training. I think the one thing that we also do have is there are a number of kind of induction courses that are available to you as well. Things like hand hygiene. Kels, come on, help me out.
We have Introduction to Kosh Pictograms, PPE, and we have a great robotics course, which is like introducing robotics, all the things you need to look at, things you need to be made aware of, an environmental course, hand hygiene and colour coding.
Colour coding is the one that I was stuck on. It was in my head and I couldn't get it out. Okay, so they're also available on the virtual training suite. Okay, I'm going to move on to some of your more specific questions. So I'm going to take the first one. What do you see the future of cleaning in the world of AI? I think in terms of the physical task of cleaning, AI is not going to take over the physical task of cleaning at the moment. I think where AI is going to be seen within the world of cleaning is around data, and maybe around use of robotics and using AI to clean specific areas. The data side of things, the analysis of the data is where AI may come in quite extensively. And also every cleaning business has a full admin function, and AI is one of the strongest tools for reducing the amount of administration that you need to do and speeding that process up. I think that's the easiest and simplest way I can answer that on AI personally. Kels, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we're seeing out like a lot of digitalization and artificial intelligence within the cobotics that are coming into the industry. So there is an element of that which we're seeing, and people, are integrating quite nicely at the moment. I think the future of the industry in relation to sort of the operational side of the AI out on the floor relies heavily on, you've guessed it, training. So it is really about the future of that side is going to be massively dependent on how our service changes and how we train our ops to deal with that. I think on the data side of things, it's going to massively help productivity in terms of we have so much more data, like Neil said, about the spaces that we actually clean. Even we can get telemetrics from what we're using and how long we're using it for, but also how long the client is using the site and where they are present. So using those AI systems will only work for the future if we collect data that we actually make a difference with, not just data for the sake of data.
Okay, so if we move on, I'm going to okay, while we're on the future and the use of AI, there is a question coming: what skills do you believe will be most important for cleaning professionals over the next 5 years? I think we've kind of covered that, but do you want to be more specific in your answer?
Yeah, of course. I think that, well, there's so many different ways you could go with this. I'll start with my compliance sort of point of view. Um, there's going to be a lot of data protection sorts of things, but as we introduce AI, obviously we're introducing an intelligent function that'll be able to access a lot of things. So we're not just talking about how to work alongside robotics or AI generated material anymore. It's also about cleaning operatives, supervisors, anybody in operations having a base level understanding of the power of what they're using and how to make sure that they get out of it what they need, but also that they're protecting the environment of which they work, whether that's the stakeholders, contract information, or anything outside of that. In terms of the actual training, if you are introducing cobotics, let's say for an example, if you don't teach Kelsey, the cleaning operative, how to do her job now that she's got this co-help, Kelsey's always going to do what Kelsey's always going to have done. So you need to make sure that where you are integrating these things, there is a whole new schedule in place for them. They understand the job specs that they need to be doing, and they understand the capability. I think is the biggest thing that we all need to understand with this. It's not an answer for everything. It's never professed to be an answer for everything. So understanding the capabilities along the way. And also, it's not just the cleaning operations team that need to have an understanding of the difference this is going to make to service level. The future of training in this sense needs to go out to stakeholders as well. And it's so much further outside of that. I'll take a fire door, for example. If we are implementing these things, we're going to have to retrain on, again, the capabilities of the site. We're not going to be able to leave fire doors open everywhere for a robotic to go, sailing on through. We're not going to be able to get some data from some rooms because it's just not going to be viable. So I think the biggest thing is capability in every sense, operationally, legally, for compliance reasons, and for your insurance is a big thing, but also for stakeholders on site to understand maybe ways that they're going to have to change their working actions in order to let this technology fly.
Thanks for that. I'm going to move on to the second part of this person's question. If you could recommend one change that organisations could implement immediately to improve cleaning quality and operational efficiency, what would it be? I would say, I'd say at every point, effective management is one of the key parts to operational efficiency. And as part of that, it's ensuring people know what they're meant to be doing, ensuring people are fully trained in what they're meant to be doing, ensuring people have the right tools for what they're doing, and ensuring that there's good communication. But that's obviously quite a number of things, but the key part of this is effective management. Kels, do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, it's probably, I'd say the same thing. It's effective management. I'd say one of the quickest things. I'm going to assume that everybody on here has got a vested interest in training anyway, and has trained their staff or is at least looking to. I think training only works with real implementation, and that doesn't mean necessarily just essentially standing over someone's shoulder and making sure that they're diluting the chemical correctly, or they're applying it properly to a surface, or they're using the machine correctly. I think one of the greatest things you can do is audit and inspect and look at what's going on. But the only way that collecting that data actually works is if you actually implement the change that you need from it, in terms of if you've done an audit, what are you doing with the rectifications that you find? How proactive are you being in your reactiveness? I think a lot of the time we do an audit and we have, we people just don't follow it up, or it'll be, oh, it was fixed on audit, or it was fixed when I spotted the problem. Collecting data, implementing change, and then, providing more data on that really does drive significant improvement. So I think if you're going to do something, make use of it.
Okay. Moving on to our next question. So I know we're going through these reasonably quickly, but there's quite a lot here, and I'm trying to get through as many of them for you as I can. What is the best way to handle client resistance when BIC's best practice requires more time than budgeted? You going for that? I can see you smiling.
I mean, first of all, I'd love to know what BIC's best practice is in terms of like, well, I mean, hopefully I know what it is, but in terms of what the client has been led to believe or what our own understanding is led to believe. A lot of the times, and we spoke about it on the last webinar as well. People have done the training, which is a process. We train a process. We train take the skill that we train at the moment, we train it from start to finish, of setup to close down. And I think people sometimes get unrealistic understandings that we're, expecting somebody then to take half an hour to clean a washroom, because that's how long it took for them to complete their assessment. I think there needs to be a differentiation between the process that you're doing within a training environment and also what you're doing on site. If this is based off productivity levels, um, the process that you have may take slightly longer due to your own equipment on site, or it might be shorter because of your own equipment on site, or because of a plethora of reasons for unproductive times. So I think just having a real understanding of what you're implementing as BIC standards and also what you're putting in to try and achieve that will give you a better understanding of how to meet client expectations.
I think, yeah, I mean, if you're talking down the productivity route, you're looking at, a big supply on average. It doesn't take into account density, how many tables and chairs are in a room, how many, if you're in a hospital, how many beds are in the room as well. There's always factors that you need to take into account for your specific site, and there's no way you can put in any productivity calculation to counter all of those items. It will also be different from winter to summer in terms of productivity is different. If you're cleaning something that's close to a beach and you're getting sun blown in regularly, that's going to affect your productivity. I think those things are, you need to understand best practice. If you're talking BIC's best practice, BIC's best practice is in my opinion, is performing the task to its best practice. But the big factor, as Kelsey's already pointed out, is the difference between a training and live environment. And at the moment, for a skill, you're setting up for a single skill, you're closing down for a single skill. That's not how you do it on site. And it's taking that training, and that again involves supervisory management involvement in terms of taking it from the classroom or a training environment into the real life environment. So the next part of this question is, what skills and qualifications does BICS recommend for professionals aiming for leadership roles in facilities management? BICS focuses on the cleaning operative up to supervisor level and into very junior management level. Past that, there are IWFM offer a lot of facilities management qualifications. Kelsey, do you want to add any more to that?
It was a nice choice. The man, I would have said all of them. Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. We focus on operatives, supervisors, and junior management. So, yeah, IWFM, and look at the other options that are available out there. There's so many pathways that you can do, like mentoring as well. I mean, even here, like in the UK, which is available worldwide, we obviously have like the chartered practitioner register, but there's also ways in which you can get mentored into that. So there is a lot of options out there that people can join pathways that maybe aren't necessarily on the accredited training route, but are through traineeships and mentorships. So if you want operational like knowledge, how to clean, which I think everybody should do, especially in an FM position. Look at the practical skills options like what we offer with operatives and supervisors and our clean logic courses that go into that management level. but really look at all of your options and for every facet as well. As much as I'd love to say that cleaning is everything and it's all you need to know in FM, there are obviously other tenets of that as well.
Okay, I'm now going to go on to something specific. Somebody's asking how to remove scratches in a steel lift manually. I'm definitely passing this to you, Kels.
Well, I guess it depends how big the scratch is and what it actually is. A lot of the time, scratches on the surface have obviously been caused because of a method failure. So if it's something from, a cleaning process, again, it's a really hard question to answer. I think in lift cleaning, you need to be really careful if it's actually a scratch or if it's just a streak. So degreasing agent's really, really good for that. And there are products out there as well that sort of in infill. I'm not going to recommend any in particular. If it's in a floor space, there's different ways you can do it. If it's a floor type that can be resealed, then go for that. But have a look. And I'm more than happy to answer a question through the help desk, which I'm sure Di will happily put through an email address for.
Di, could you just drop in the chat as well? Somebody's asked about the link to the robotics course, which brings me nicely on to the next question, which is I'm interested to know more about automation, and they're talking robotic vacuums. So, I mean, in terms of robotic vacuums, I think they're becoming more and more prominent, and I think they do have a very valuable place because it allows, particularly for larger areas, for the bulk of the task to be done, freeing up the cleaning up to do more around the specifics. Kels, do you want to take that further on?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very happy to say I've seen it implemented really well across, so many different size of sites and sort of area types, especially different sectors. I think larger robotic vacuums are really, really helpful, and can be implemented at different times, so we're not stuck um in the same times as we're expecting clean operatives to be on site. It sort of speaks for itself. I will say though, I have seen smaller robotic vacuums or cobotic vacuums being used by operatives, literally that you can dock on a trolley. I mean, if anyone had the pleasure of watching BICSc demonstrations in Manchester, we showed, how you can sort of work alongside that with a smaller capacity cobotic. I think it definitely is the future. Obviously, there's still tasks that need to be done though. So this links back to the capability part that I said before of, as much of a miracle as they are, which, in a lot of ways I do think, and I definitely think it at home. Um, I would say you need to understand the capability, and again, it's about the cobotic part is understanding how that co-partnership works. But yeah, in every facet, it can definitely improve productivity, and it can definitely help an operative focus on those tasks that often get missed, but only if you truly understand the capability. As much as it might be a miracle for picking up dog hair in my home, they're not a miracle. They can't do absolutely everything in the room. So yeah, in every way, just again, look at your options. And another thing is, I'm sure they'll love me saying it, a lot of the places that are selling these cobotics, robotics, whatever you want to call them now, will actually let you trial for quite a while, trial with no, you don't have to buy. So do it, try it out. And go for it. And again, try different capacities. You might be shocked at how big of a cobotic you can actually get into a smaller space, or in addition, the smaller size of a vacuum you could actually put into a larger space depending on what your space is used for.
I can say from our experience, from the people that we've seen it install them well and reassign cleaning ups to focus on corners, edges, detail work, their customer satisfaction ratings have gone much higher because they're getting a lot more of that finer detail work done. So there is such productivity gains from using them in the right way. And I think that goes for I mean, there are machines that scrub, robots that scrub or dry as well. I think that goes for those and it doesn't have there are smaller ones as well as the big ones. And obviously, if you're doing something that's got a huge forecourt or a huge open area, why wouldn't you? You know, it's stopping the manual work. It's stopping that heavy duty having to manually mop or taking somebody away to operate a scrubber dryer, when actually the machine can do it for you. And all you have to do is just be about to make sure that they're doing it, and to focus on edges, corners, whatever's necessary. And with the way things are advancing, the edges and corners are getting better.
Mhm.
So, okay, moving on. Another AI question, which we've already covered. Okay, what are the different types of dirt and how to remove them correctly? It's a bit of an open-ended question. Kelsey, you can take that one, I think.
I'll go through the fault types. Why not give them a bit of a freebie? At BICSc, especially when we're doing inspections, we stick with consolidated fault types, basically just for ease of communication. This is a real test now, isn't it? So I did an audit this morning. Let's see if we can remember. So, we basically differentiate them. I mean, there's so many different types of dirt. I can't give you a cleaning process for each one that you're going to come across. And I hate the word dirt as well, because even though this is what we're here talking dirty, we all have different types. So, we have build up. So build up is, as the name suggests, it's been built up for a lengthy amount of time. And it's something that's going to require quite an abrasive action against it. That might mean machinery, it might mean heavier machinery that you need to get rid of things, or it might mean a really abrasive product that you need to get rid of it. And it's built up over a large amount of time. We have heavy contamination, which again might be something that's, it's built up a little bit over time, maybe over a couple of weeks to a month, or it might just be that there was that a mass amount of contamination, that it's that heavy that it's not going to be a simple wipe off. Which then leads me very nicely on to everybody's favourite, definitely my favourite, which, like contamination, it's a quick wipe off, or it's a quick scrub off, mop off, vacuum off, sweep off. It'll take you a couple of seconds. It's also very interesting that a lot of the time, and as we'll all probably know, those of us in the operational side of the industry, that we very often, if something is broken in an area, damaged, it still gets called dirty because it just doesn't look right. So we have that condition defect in there, which unless unless you want to start fixing things manually, which I don't, I'd rather clean what's not broken. That's a condition defect and needs to be reported on. And then we have our lovely method failure, which essentially leads to everything else. But that is down to either incorrect use of equipment or incorrect cleaning procedure. So what I would say is you reclassify what we mean as dirty into fault type, and the main three on the cleaning side is light contamination, quickly wipe off, quickly get rid of. Heavy contamination, bit more of an effort. It's been there for a little bit of a while, maybe a couple of weeks or maybe on a mass. And build up, not my favourite. It's going to take some abrasive action, a heavier machine or a heavier chemical.
Okay, that's going to lead me quite nicely into a question that's just come in terms of swab testing. Recommendations for swab test equipment to check surfaces are hygienically clean. I think with your hospital experience, I'm not best placed to answer this. I'll leave that one with you.
Okay. This is where we get the great BICSc get out of jail free card of I'm not going to recommend anything in particular. But what I will say, I'll give some handy tips of if you are looking to implement this, what you need to be looking out for. The quickest thing is time. The quickest thing. The most important thing is time. I would say if you're going to do a swab test, you need to know when you're going to get the results back by and how long it's going to take. If you're taking a culture swab, how long is that actually going to take and when are you going to get the identification from it? If it's a test that you need to send off for 3 weeks before you get it, is it really going to give you the information that you want? And did you really want to know whether that surface was clean 3 weeks ago or whether it had an ability to grow a certain bacteria 3 weeks ago? There are definitely rapid tests that you can do, and we see it implemented a lot on sites. Um, and again, it can give you great information. However, there's so many different things that you need to consider in that. Who is actually doing the swab test? Is the equipment actually clean that you're using? Is it sterilized of what you're using? And what are you doing with that information? What do you actually want to know? I'm not going to name too many tests because I don't want to annoy people or put anybody down. But again, what are you actually trying to get from doing these swab tests? Some of the swab tests that we may think we swab it and it tells us whether it's clean or dirty actually just tells you whether it has an ability to grow a certain type of bacteria or whether it's actually got that bacteria on there. So look into what you want, what you're actually looking to get, why you're wanting to get it. If it's something that you want to rapidly know whether whatever's happening on that surface, or whether it's for the client and it's in a clean room or it's wherever, and it can be left for a while. I will do a little bit of a plug here. That there was a good study that went on last year that was to do with air quality, and air quality is actually giving us a lot more information alongside swab testing that people might do. So I know that we've written about it in various forms of media, the standard we've spoken about on webinars before as well. But have a look at air testing as well, air quality testing as well, and it will give you some really, really good results.
Okay, I'm going to stay on the topic of dirt and more build up on a surface. And I was at one of the questions we've been asked has been, what's the difference between descaler and limescale remover? I think there's a very close similarity to them, but there is a distinct difference. I mean, descalers can remove limescale, but it tends to be where you use them. And limescale is a product specifically for removing limescale. And do you want to explain descalers better than I have, Kelsey? Because you tend to be a bit more articulate on this.
I'm give it my best shot. Okay. Yeah, obviously quite often used interchangeably as well as, many things that happen in the industry. A descaler is a product design for dissolving minerals and normally inside appliances or inside pipework. I would say that a lot of the time, descalers can be food friendly, but not always if it's not in a food related capacity. So a descaler is something that you might find to put inside your kettle, especially those of us that live in the lovely south and have to do it very, very regularly. It might be something that we get in a coffee machine with our fancy little tablets, or even in pipe work as well. A limescale remover is something that's normally on the external. So that's for your taps, the tops of your plugs around your sink, in your toilet, and stuff like that. And like Neil said, both can remove limescale, but normally what we see is limescale remover is on the external and a descaler is on the internal. And I do want to note, whilst we're here, that for a descaler, if you are planning on putting it in a kettle or a coffee machine or anything like that, please do look for the food safe badging. Don't just think that something that's, maybe commercial or a little bit more abrasive, that you're going to be wanting to tip down your pipes can be popped into your kettle before you have your lovely cup of Yorkshire tea or whatever else it may be.
Our next question is how to handle kitchen cleaning. I'm going to go down the commercial route here, having been in this environment for quite a while previously. Commercial kitchen cleaning is completely different to tea and coffee areas or domestic kitchen cleaning. Most of the equipment you have in a commercial kitchen will have very distinct manufacturer instructions on how to clean it. Every oven cleans differently. And you need to really get training from your manufacturer or follow the instructions within the manual. Anything extract wise are generally regulated and shouldn't be touched by in the general cleaning purpose. Stainless steel is surface cleaning, and is nothing more than that. But anything like fryers, they again have very specific manufacturers cleaning instructions. So really, kitchen cleaning will be surface cleaning, fridge cleaning, which is the same whether it's domestic or commercial. The only difference being is the product. To be fair, for the home or anywhere else, you should be using a food safe product when you're cleaning your fridge, but definitely within a commercial kitchen environment. And floor and surface would need to ensure that it is a food safe chemical, but it is just mopping, it is just surface cleaning, and I don't mean just. It is the same mopping as whether you're in a hospital, a kitchen, an office. Mopping is mopping, and it's the same process. Kels, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I
In
think you've
terms
covered
of
that one off.
yeah, so and you, I would really definitely for all your major equipment in any commercial kitchen follow manufacturer's instructions, because I've tried to clean an oven the wrong way in a commercial kitchen before now, and come a major cropper, and had to have the machine repaired. So advice is manufacturer instructions, get training from the manufacturer if you can. Moving down the questions, I'm definitely giving this one to you.
Oh
What
no.
you've covered a bit of it already, I think, anyway. But what strategies or training methods do you recommend for improving staff retention and upholding big standards across large cleaning teams?
Good question. Okay, across larger cleaning teams. Well, first of all, I think it's about how you introduce the training. A lot of the time, what we see is training used as a tool to manage people, I'd say, in not a very nice way. So I mean, BICSc, the big reason why, I fell in love with it and I'm still in love with it, is that it is a personal development tool, and it creates, a great progression route of knowledge and consolidates a lot of things. So introduce the training that you're doing correctly. Um, I think getting people on board with training completely depends on how you actually train it out as well. So it's not necessarily just about what you're picking for people, it's about the method in which you learn. I can tell you now there's three of us from BICS here and we all learn in completely different ways. So even if you are a large team, you need to not forget the individual process. And whatever training you do, obviously I can talk about BICS, that's, we're all sat here because of it. But there's different methods and there's different ways to teach everything. Um, in terms of the actual skills that are required, if you do not get somebody to understand how to get themselves ready for what they need to do, and how to keep themselves safe in that process, you're never going to get anywhere. And what I would also say is no matter the skill, no matter what you actually train out, the bare minimum really as a cleaning operative is understanding how to clean the floor and how to clean surfaces. And that could be if you've not stopped the mop yet and you're still mopping a floor, fine. Teach them how to mop the floor properly and efficiently. And if you have stopped to mop and you've moved on to a scrubber dryer, then it's literally about ensuring that somebody understands why they're doing it, and why we ask different things. I always talk about where we've got larger teams. You can't assume that everybody understands why you're doing things. If you walk into a random site that hasn't got color coding and go down someone's throat because they're using a red cloth in a general area, very, very, very often new operatives will not understand what that actually means and why we're actually doing it. They'll just clean with a red cloth because they've always been told to clean with a red cloth in a washroom. So a big part of actually implementing change on site, actually getting the processes into people, is giving them the reasons, the hows and the whys why we're doing stuff like that. But again, meeting people where they're at, and leaning into their way that they learn.
So one of the things that I think I always comment on around training, and it's all about understanding. It's all about how you implement. It's all about how you manage it after they've done the training. We can all watch a YouTube video and pretend we can tile a bathroom, but it doesn't look anything like a professional would do the first time. But if I go back to previous careers, previous roles, I was taught how to do payroll. There was training involved in that. I understood the system. I could play with the system and make it work and produce it, but I was still trained in it to know the company policies, the company procedures, the best and most efficient way to do it. The way I'd have done it would have probably took me 3 times as long, and I wouldn't have got everybody paid on time. It's that kind of thing. You can't go into any job without some level of training and explanation of why you're doing it. Okay, I'm going to move on. Um, there are a lot of the next questions about smart washroom solutions. There are a lot of smart washroom solutions out there. We're not really in a position to recommend anyone over any other. I think that's a judgment call from yourselves. However, Kelsey, do you have any different feelings on that?
I think it lends itself into what you're actually trying to achieve with a smart washroom solution. It can go anywhere from touch-free dispensers all the way to quite recently seen machines that are put in toilet bowls that dispense a cleaning agent that means that there's no manual scrubbing that needs to be done. So I think wherever you're looking, think about what you actually want to achieve. Smart cleaning solutions can be to help the operatives, but it can also be to contain infection on site. And that doesn't just mean I know that I'm healthcare Hargreaves, but that doesn't just mean in a hospital. That could be anywhere, event spaces, education spaces, anywhere. So yeah, smart washroom solutions. Can't really recommend any, obviously, as BICSc, but think about what you're trying to achieve and actually how big the scope is of that. It's not just a robot that can clean a toilet. It could even just be the telemetrics of a washroom, how many times it's being used, and the data screens that we all love to click the big happy smiley face on, I hope, when we're in there. So what you're trying to achieve out of it, and yeah, get your options.
I think for me, one of the biggest benefits of the smart washrooms is the data. So you could have a 14-floor building and 3 floors, the toilets haven't been used at all, but unless you have the data to know that, they'll be cleaned every day potentially. You can save that time knowing that you don't need to go in there and clean because the door hasn't been opened and they haven't been used. It's about increasing productivity and making gains where you can. And if that's the kind of thing you want, then you need to look specifically for that. But there's so much more to it than that. So again, like Kelsey says, you need to know what you want to achieve. Okay. Should trainers prepare staff for increasing automation? I think that's a given. I don't think there's any question on that. Yes. If you're expecting people to engage with the automation, if you're expecting people to engage with, even if it's just your COSH risk assessments, that are on a tablet, you need to train them to engage with that. You can't just tell them that there you go, there's QR code and hope they'll know it. You need to train them to understand how to access and get that information. And with everything that's coming out, I think the role of the cleaning operative is changing very, very quickly. And with so much more automation and telemetrics, I think yes, they need to understand, and I do think that's gonna be one of the biggest changes coming. Kels.
Yeah, no, like I said before, Kelsey the cleaning op will always do what Kelsey the cleaning op's always done without training. So we can all implement these amazing things that we see at cleaning shows or that we read in catalogs, but unless the guys on the ground that are actually using it actually know how to work alongside all of this, and like Neil said, the differentiation there was great. It's not just the machines; it's also where we're digitalizing, the compliance documentation that they should have access to, even the signing in process. You know, just because they can use WhatsApp on the phone at home doesn't necessarily mean they know how to now, send Ronnie the robot out to go and do its job. So we should be implementing this slowly into place, even with the smaller things we're bringing in. It's not just diluting a chemical or checking a vacuum that needs to be trained in. Um, Teaching somebody how to do facets of their job should never be something that we question.
So I think it's common across all industries now because there's so much more, even down to simply authentication for logins now. You know, everybody now needs a smartphone to authenticate their logins to be able to use it working in an admin environment, let alone anything else. So all these things are new. And whilst there's a lot of expectation that people use a smartphone every day, they use it for what they know. They don't use it for everything. You know, people aren't on top of every facet of what's available to them through apps, through smartphones, through even through computers. I mean, who knows everything about anything, particularly with the world of data and the world of technology. We'd all love to say, yeah, we know most, but I'd say most of us know 20 to 30% of actually the functionality that's available to us. Um, It's all right. We're into the last 10, 13 minutes, so I'm trying to change some subjects differently and um look for something we haven't done. Um Sorry, there's a lot of how to we've already covered. Okay, how can healthcare Hargreaves, organizations ensure cleaning performance measures accurately reflect cleanliness standards and patient experience rather than simply achieving KPI targets?
So can you ask the start of that again?
How can healthcare organizations
Yeah.
ensure cleaning performance measures accurately and reflect cleaning standards and patient experience rather than simply achieving KPI targets?
Okay. Audit.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, in both senses. So I'm going to use the NHS England example of the technical and efficacy audits. I think auditing in every aspect and being realistic with the audits. You know, a lot of the time when we see compliance being put into sight, we're very wary of what can come out of it. And I've been guilty of it. Um, I think everybody has. You don't want to say bad things about yourself, and you also obviously everyone has targets to meet. I think keeping your compliance separate from the operations that you have is a really good idea. And I also think that I've said it a million times before, but not just completing data for the sake of data, but actually trying to drive change from things. So if you are doing inspection, like have it multifaceted. That goes outside of healthcare as well. So as hard as it might be to get the client to do every single audit that you want to do, um, get different teams there, get estates involved. It becomes a lot more effective when other people check your work because that drives real improvement. And yes, it may help you get KPIs, but it actually gives you a realistic idea of standards itself. Um, Efficacy audits, especially in terms of the NHS England standards, are a really, really underused audit tool. And you can set your own questions. It's not just the cleanliness of an element in any facet, both in and outside of healthcare, that can tell you the cleaning standard that is being achieved. It's also the practice behind the cleaning that can give you a really great, explanation a lot of the time as to what's happening. In healthcare, I would also say that we have place audits, which are patient-led. There's no reason why you can't download one of those forms and walk something like a patient. And again, another great way of doing it is to get somebody completely outside of cleaning operations. It might be an administrative assistant. It might be somebody that works in payroll, literally just to walk the site and tell you the things that you maybe, repeat every single day. Um, it might be that they spot something that you've ignored for ages. We've all been there. You've seen the same stain that you can't get off a windowsill, and you've just stopped writing it down because, what's the point? It's been there for 6 months. It's not going to get fixed. But highlighting those issues, especially with a fresh set of eyes, really work. And like what I said before as well, um, it's about the rectification period as well. and actually being proactive in the reactiveness of a rectification, which, to put it bluntly, is if you're going to do an audit, you're going to spot an issue, actually fix it. Don't just think, oh, well, we achieved the pass mark, we achieved the KPI, it doesn't really matter. Standards only improve if you actually act on the data that you're given.
I was going to use the example. It's like when your mum comes around and points out the fact that you got a stain on your curtain that you've know's been there for 6 months, but forgotten to do anything about it. Okay. I'm going to move on. One of our next questions: do we have any course or training for a laundry manager? We do have training for on-premises laundry. If your laundry facility, if you have a laundry facility on your premises, we can provide training for that. Please contact us. Just drop us an email, info@bicsc.org.uk, which I think has already gone out on the chat. So just drop us an email there. We can discuss it with you and let you know what's available and how you can do it. It fits into the Cleaning Professional Skill Suite, so CPSS. The next question is, do we have 24/7 customer service? Unfortunately, we don't. Our customer service runs Monday to Friday, 9 till 5-ish. However, we are always available. We can, if you can't get hold of us physically at that point, please drop us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. We aim to get back to most emails within 24 hours, but if you can't get us through the normal channels on the phone between 9 and 5. We aren't yet of a size where we can justify 24/7 customer support. I'm afraid there's only 20 of us, so it's a bit difficult to manage that. Moving on. We've had questions around evidence-based cleaning and disinfection practices, which we've covered on numerous previous Talking Dirties, and we've touched upon quite heavily already today. We've got 7 minutes left, so are there any questions coming through? No, we seem to be okay on the questions coming through on the chat. There is a question about comms room cleaning specs. Can we provide information on them? Comms room cleaning isn't an area we are currently involved in. Kelsey, do you have any personal experience in this outside of BICSc?
I mean, not really. We don't really touch them when we're on site. I think it's so there's so much more outside of cleaning that you need to be aware of when you're in there. So specification also needs to include a lot of the time remote monitoring. So how are you dealing with that when you can't get in there all the time? Cleaning practice that you do in there needs to also allow you to understand or at least be able to pre-control things like air quality, so humidity in those rooms. You definitely don't want that in there. And I guess any leaks and water management within those rooms. But yeah, no, not really something that we deal with. So yeah,
I think my difficulty with data centers is most of the time they're on raised floors, they aren't sealed floors, there's wires running underneath, you don't know what electric's under there. I think there's a whole raft of potential things. I mean, you'd need to know the full spec of the room you're cleaning before you start to know exactly which process you would take.
Yeah,
It's not impossible. It's not impossible.
No,
it's just
top things to think about are using low water solution. In terms of you don't want humidity in there, you don't want water in there, believe it or not. And you also want HEPA filtration vacuuming if you are going to be vacuuming in there as well.
Okay, we have 4 minutes left, so I'm not going to start any more questions. We have there's a question: do we feel moving to 2 colour codes within washrooms has made it more complicated for frontline teams? We haven't moved to 2. We offer the solution of 2 if you want to use it. But I think the two color code is more protecting the operative, ensuring and reduction in cross contamination. So that's the main reason for the ability to offer two colors. Kelsey?
Yeah, I think to be fair, I think it's in a lot of ways made it less complicated, in terms of the process of, cleaning in a washroom from clean to dirty. A lot of the time people get a little bit confused with the process because they haven't made it habitual yet. So I think the offering of that red and white cloth actually allows them to think of the sanitary appliances as something completely different. We've still got, quite a lot of guilty parties out there in terms of that, there's a mix of color coding still. We'll put that down to that they've not been trained yet. But I think that it actually really does help, especially where I've seen people implement the red and white cloths on site, that it is a part of a washroom that needs to be kept completely separate from the rest of the appliances in there. But again, there's no reason why you can't go red throughout. And that's going to, depend on many factors, cost of equipment, company, company policy, site policy, whether you're having to follow any external guidelines like NHS guidelines. So, yeah, no, I think from my experience, it's actually helped put the sanitary appliances into their own bracket and help cleaning ups understand a little bit more that, we are dealing with some big things.
Okay, Jane, Ryan, you've just put your hand up. Unfortunately, we can't answer questions, but if you want to drop your question into the in the chat, I'll see if we can get to it. I am just about to close the webinar down though. At the moment, I'd like to thank you all firstly for joining us. Kelsey and I love to be put on the spot. And you do come up with some great questions for us. If you have asked a question that we haven't been able to get to, I do apologise. Like I said, so many people registered, so many questions. It's very difficult to do that. We are carrying these on for the rest of this year, the Talking Dirty selection. But we will hopefully have a new format for you in 2027. However, if they keep being as popular as they are and we keep getting the same level of questions, it may be that we continue the Talking Dirty brand through into 2027 as well. But thank you all for joining us. Kelsey, Di, and I wish you a good afternoon. And if there is anything you need from us, drop us a line, info@bicsc.org.uk, and we will do our best to answer you or point you in the direction of somebody that can help you if we can't. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.